As states across the country are passing strict immigration laws, D.C. is facing the problem differently. Mayor Vincent Gray is making changes to how D.C. police operate. Ada Ortega has more.
D.C. Mayor Vincent Gray is weighing in on a controversial immigration program. He signed an order Wednesday prohibiting police from asking people about their immigration status. Gray's policy is in response to the federal program called Secure Communities. The program prioritizes the removal of criminal aliens who pose a threat to public safety. It has many in the Latino community fearful.
Being stopped for something like a traffic infraction could end up having you land in detention because your immigration status would come up, or your lack of immigration status being legal would be asked about by the local law enforcement, and that would then therefore alert ICE, which would then alert the FBI, and you could be in detention.
Secure Communities is part of a new frontline investigative reporting workshop investigation called Lost in Detention. Professor and managing editor Lynn Perry says the report found major problems with the federal program.
We, like the District of Columbia, looked at Secure Communities. We looked at their impact on local law enforcement and the perception that law enforcement was not necessarily your friend, which is what we heard from law enforcement in Illinois and other places.
Mayor Gray says the D.C. order should not be viewed as a plan to opt out of the federal program. But instead, the mayor says immigration status should not make a difference when it comes to city services.
We're going to work now to make sure our various offices work hard to get the information out to those who are most affected by this. We want to answer the questions, and we want to make sure that people understand the policy that is in place and that is here to protect people who otherwise might not feel as secure as they otherwise would here in the city.
The Department of Homeland Security is expecting to expand the program nationwide to all law enforcement jurisdictions by 2013. Reporting for District Wire News, I'm Ada Ortega.
Nurses are flocking to the Chicago Mayor's office today. They are protesting the arrest of 2 nurses who volunteered at an Occupy Chicago rally. The nurses union, National Nurses United, is asking members to call Mayor Rahm Emanuel's office and tell the mayor to drop all charges against the nurses.
The D.C. Office of Planning is telling Georgetown University it has to house all of its undergraduate students. If they can't, they need to cut enrollment. Neighbors are complaining about noise and litter by students. The D.C. Office of Planning also says too many people is not good for the city. But limits on enrollment could hurt Georgetown's 10-year plan to expand. Georgetown currently houses 84% of its undergraduates, more than most other colleges in the city. Georgetown says the new standard is unrealistic financially and nearly impossible to find appropriate sites.
Students are feeling a lot of stress lately, and it's not just because of exams this year. New reports say student loans have doubled in the past decade. Emily Roseman is in the studio to tell us just how big this problem really is. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Nikki. That's right. The $1 trillion of outstanding loans actually means that more Americans owe more to student loans than in credit card debt.
Many college students fear during their time at school. New reports indicate that the total amount of outstanding student loans this year will exceed $1 trillion for the first time. AU Central, which serves the American University community for financial needs, gives students regular tips on how to work with loan lenders and how to find the right loan that meets their needs.
Students are going into nonprofit work and volunteer type work, and they have the option of the income-based repayment, which allows them to pay based on their income for 10 years, and then the remainder is forgiven.
But now more than ever, AU students are feeling the crunch of their wallets. Even the most business-savvy of AU wonks are unsure how to deal with their financial fears.
It's something that's been frustrating all 4 years, particularly at a school like American University, where the tuition keeps going up and we keep hearing about the school having surpluses and there being money for a whole lot of projects, but somehow the tuition is still going up.
After weeks of Occupy Wall Street protests, students are now joining the 99% of Americans with over $100 billion worth of student loans taken out just last year alone. The Occupy Wall Street protests have been driven by many frustrated Americans, but perhaps one of the most common complaints has been the overwhelming amount of student loans. Many students who are now voting for their second time at school are taking their financial constraints into consideration.
You know, our age group voted for Obama 4 years ago with all these hopes of helping us get through school with minimal loans, and I don't think he's delivered on that at all.
What's even more surprising is the reaction coming from political parties. This weekend alone, GOP candidate Ron Paul even suggested cutting the entire program completely. He suggested that student loans should just be handled by the students themselves by just acquiring a student job. So back to you, Nikki.
Thank you, Emily.
Coming up on District Wire News, a new tax on plastic bags in Montgomery County has people talking, but not about the 5-cent price increase. We'll tell you about how reusable cloth bags could be spreading disease.
And an American is killed in a shark attack off the coast of Australia over the weekend. And the search is on for the shark that killed him. More on that story after the break.